but a rule limiting the period of public comment may not be applied in a manner that denies a person the right to address the public body, such by limiting all public comment to a half hour. Now this segues perfectly. There was a case, it was New York Times Company versus Sullivan. And in that, the judge ruled, and I will read what the judge ruled. Those who, one, are independents believe that public discussion is a political duty and that this should be a fundamental principle of the American government. They recognize the risks of which all human institutions are subject, but they knew that order.
I pass on my name and I give her I yield my 3 minutes to her, please.
Thank you. Punishment for its infraction. That it is hazardous to discourage thought, hope, and imagination. That fear breeds repression, repression breeds hate, hate breeds menaces stable government. That the path of safety lies in the opportunity to discuss freely supposed grievances and proposed remedies. And that the fitting remedy for evil counsels is good ones. Believing in the power of reason as applied through public discussion, they eschewed silence coerced by law, the argument of force in its worst form. Recognizing the occasional tyrannies of governing majorities, they amended the Constitution so that free speech and assembly should be guaranteed. Thus, we consider this case against the background of a profound national commitment to the principle that debate on public issues should be uninhibited, robust, and wide open, and that it may well include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasantly sharp attacks on government and public officials. My personal comment is I just hope it's verbal. The above, basically in layman's terms, says you can request people to keep their voice to 3 minutes. However, it is within their lawful right to speak as long as it takes for them to speak their grievances. You are not able to interrupt their time, cut them off, or stifle them speaking in any way, and you should do so. The Supreme Court is on their side. So, as far as the 3 minutes go, I'm sure that everybody will be respectful, but I think it would be, in turn, you respectful if you don't have a buzzer after 3 minutes. In regards to, I'd like to end with the fact that the Michigan Budget Bill 0082 for the 21-22 budget period in Michigan, the health department is now unable to mandate masks K through 12. As conferred by Kurt Vanderwall and Jack O'Malley. But it's sad that our school board has voted to keep the mask mandates after saying, and possibly even blaming the health officials that they were the ones responsible for making you do the mask mandates. For God's sake, what did we ever do during flu season? I just don't know. And whoever said, I really don't, what did we do 2 years ago at flu season? And whoever said, it's common sense, if your child's sick, keep them home. But free these kids, please. And girls, you did an awesome job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're gonna love this one.
Hello. So we're in school. So what could be more fitting place to get some education, right? You can probably know that many of us in the community have been studying. This is only a portion of the school's policy manual. We've been sort of doing our homework. So I'm here to address a few things, and before I do, I'm going to ask the audience to join with me in giving the board some grace and the opportunity to correct some violations that they made. Possibly ones that you're unaware of, maybe some you forthright, but yet we're going to give you one opportunity to correct it before any further action is taken. And I encourage you to read that handbook because your children need to know it, study it, teach your children. We just heard about the U.S. Supreme Court case, and I bet you many of you never heard of that. We have some very good advisors who advise us well. As Americans, as men and women of Mason County, we're going to start exercising our rights. We're no longer sitting down and playing nice. We're going to start from the bottom, and we're going to hold our elected public servants accountable. No, while we're most certainly offering grace, we're also going to sound a bit harsh while we come to educate who is in control. Today before you is not just a room full of parents, grandparents, and taxpayers. Today before you is a group of men and women standing united and ordained by the blood of Jesus Christ. We're defending our children and answering the call the Lord's given us. Today, before you are your employers, and you're being served with your job review. For many meetings, parents have spoken about Michigan laws, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, statistic after statistic, and many times being met with rolling eyes, acts of disinterest, and most of all, acts of disrespect. Today, you're formally being put on notice. First of all, every one of you have taken and sworn to the Constitution in your oath of office, correct? Where in the Constitution does it say that a department, any department, has the right to usurp the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and parents' rights? It's not in there. So you're walking on thin ice. So this oath of office comes with some perimeters and instructions. Within 5 business days after the certification of Board of Election, the school district election coordinator is required to issue a certificate of election to each elected candidate. That is your acceptance of office. Within 10 days after issuance, the certificate needs to be turned in, filed, and then you swear your oath. That is also been filed with the Secretary of the School Board, accepted of office with the election coordinator. FOIA requests have already been filed for your oaths, where you swore your oath to the Constitution. That is the same Constitution that's been brought up here, that has been ignored. We are all aware of who on the board has voted and how you betrayed your oath. You're outside your boundaries of your office. And not only are you guilty of operating outside your boundaries of your office, which is covered in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, you're also negligent in doing things to protect the children that you're bound to do.
We have a board policy to limit 3 minutes.
I'll yield my time.
This is not that. It's 2 infractions. They are failure to act and failure to benefit of others. We've already heard the damage that it's done, and that's only one student speaking up. You've been acting outside the authority of your office. Another FOIA request has been filed, and it's for your surety bonds. Your surety bonds are what protects the school from your haphazard and unlawful activities. There's even more FOIA works in the works. OMA and other violations noted. Number 1, your oath of office. The ones that we've submitted to the FOIAs. You violated your sworn oath to the Constitution. Number 2, cutting people off at 3 minutes. That's against the First Amendment. Amendments to the Constitution trump any kind of board policy. Number 3, it was reported on social media and school staff that there was a closed meeting, which I find out now is a special meeting. And that's a direct violation by the Open Meetings Act, MCL 152(6)(3)(2) and 3. Closed meetings are only allowed in very sensitive situations and must be voted in a meeting. And there's been no meetings, scouring through all the meetings posted online, there's been no minutes that included any approved closed meetings, which is another direction of violation of the OMA. At September 20th, 21, it was reported that no advance notice was given before the meeting. There was a comment from a board member that it was posted in an office. The OMA clearly states, and I quote, "A meeting must be posted within 10 days after the first meeting of the public body in each calendar or fiscal year, a public notice stating the dates, times, and places of the regular meeting. For a rescheduled meeting or special meeting, a public notice stating that the date, time, and place of the meeting shall be posted at least 18 hours before the meeting. The 18 hours notice requirement is not fulfilled if the public is denied access to the meeting of any part of the 18 hours. That's MCL 15263(2) through 5. It must be accessible by all, 24 hours a day. It cannot be posted only behind closed doors. This is another direct violation of the OMA. September 20th, 2021, Dr. Audrey, he was acting as the chair. Robert's Rule of Order calls for the president of a board or acting president, they don't vote. The OMA states, and I quote, "Perhaps as a spillover from the well-known constitutional rule that the vice president can only vote to break a tie in the United States Senate, or that legislature's presiding officer usually refrains from voting unless her or his vote affects the results. The board's presiding officer, usually the chairperson, can only vote to break a tie." See the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, subsection 3, Robert's Rule of Order, or Price versus Oakland Township Board, case number 182, Michigan 216, 148, NW 438. The chairperson does not vote unless in case of a tie. Dr. Brett Autry did cast his vote, which caused the tie, which means that the results of the vote,
I yield my time to her.
which means that the results of the vote were incorrect and is another direct violation of the OMA. For anyone that was present at that meeting, you witnessed it. You know the correct, true vote results were 3 for no masking and 2 in support of masking. So parents, that means the school board voted at September 20th, 2021 to not mask your children. No waiver, no masks are no longer required. And this is where the grace comes in. God gives us the grace as well as free will, and I myself spoke of that at the last meeting. Only I don't believe myself to be more powerful than God. I will offer you your God-given free will and choice. Today and only today, you can correct your violations. Per the OMA, if the board acts quickly, a decision reenacted in this manner shall be effective from the date of reenactment and is not rendered invalid by any deficiency of its initial enactment. That's MCL 15.2705. So tonight is your night of redemption. For those that aren't aware, OMA violations are a misdemeanor charge and a $500 fine payable by the offender, not the financial obligation of the school. And before anybody screams, we just did what the attorney told us to do. Know that we've already done our homework. The representing law office also represents many more schools in the state of Michigan. Schools that do not require their children to be abused with face diapers. These schools have been gracious enough to have discussions with us on the issue. We know because we've done the research. And thankfully, with God on our side, who can be against us? That's right. Not only are we aware of the violations, but we're also aware of the next steps. Should you decide to continue out of your boundaries and force us to go there, we have God on our side. The only explanation is money, and believe me, that's being looked into as well. If we find the school was paid for this inexcusable form of child abuse, then that thin ice that you're walking on, let's just say it's going to be getting mighty cold. But now we're offering you a life ring before you fall through. Tonight your records need to be corrected, and that is a requirement, showing the violations you've made, the steps taken to correct them, and the minutes noted with the correct results from the vote taken on September 20th, as well as the other violations that were mentioned to be addressed. If parents wish to send their children anywhere with a mask, that's their choice. However, from this day forward, our children and staff will no longer be bullied into wearing a mask against their will. You work for we the people. We are not below your decision making. You no longer accept disrespectful employees. You work for these people sitting right here. I'd like to note that this meeting is being recorded by your employers, and should it be necessary, this tape can be used as evidence in any way your employers deem necessary. So as I close, I encourage you, those who are against the parents' will, just to do, causing these children any unnecessary stress and emotional trauma with these continued violations is ridiculous. So do the dignifying thing and resign your position. I yield.
Thank you, Connie.
My name is Jason Wolfen, and I am from Ludington, and I had, last time they had a school board election, I went and ran for school board. I got a lot of votes, and I congratulated the people who won. But there are some people here today, tonight, who actually think that this is a face taper. Excuse me. But if you have any idea what this is, it is a mask, a face mask. And you wash them. You don't or you throw them away. You don't go and wear them all the time, every single second of the day. So I just say, please, grow up.
Hello, I'm just a concerned parent here. I pass on my name right now, but I am in the medical field. I'm not a doctor like Dr. Autry, but I am a nurse, and I've done my homework. And the PCR tests, the ones that you stick all the way up to your brain, have ethylene oxide, and ethylene oxide is a known carcinogen. It causes cancer. And the masks, the paper masks that some of you are wearing, have graphene oxide in. Graphene oxide causes some symptoms that mimic COVID. Oh my goodness, go figure, right? It causes headaches, it causes respiratory problems, and prolonged wearing of masks can cause croup. It causes respiratory problems like I mentioned. It causes pneumonia. It can cause black fungus to grow in lungs. These kids are wearing these masks more than the initial OSHA violation, which said no more than 45 minutes a day, but now they had to change it because of COVID. But this is causing more harm than good. And yes, you can wash some of the masks, but you're breathing in the toxins that your body is supposed to breathe out. And I'm saying right now that you continue to do this, you're going to have more sicknesses from non-related COVID than you are from the COVID itself. I know there have been some kids who probably have complained of things, headaches, not being able to breathe, have other symptoms of things. And I know that there has been a problem because I have to wear it 12 hours a day, and I see what it does to some of the people I work with. I know that the masks have been, as you think, beneficial in some things, but I think they're doing more harm than good. They are not causing, because the virus can fit through the mask. They've shown that they are 0.025 nanometers of the virus, and it can fit through the pores of these masks. So they're not doing you any good. The masks are doing more harm than good, and I yield my minutes.
Thank you.
Down the street. I attended a special board meeting on September 20th where they were to discuss in closed session and act on a Title IX appeal. A board member tried to force me to wear a mask before this meeting. I reminded him that the board's mask mandate on students and school staff did not apply to visitors attending school board meetings. The board masked the purpose of the closed session by not naming the officer who had requested it or the nature of the charges. The former is a violation of the Open Meetings Act, previously discussed tonight. Apparently this tyrannical board wants to cover up these rather frivolous charges made by Eric Braschi of the Maintenance Department against Tyrone Collins of the Operations Department, just like they want to cover up your child's face with the current mask mandate. And just like they had no justification to go into closed session at that meeting, they have yet to show justification for the current mask mandate. At the last meeting, I spoke of gold standard randomized control tests and how 0 have proved that masks work effectively to stop the spread of a respiratory virus, while 14 exist that show quite the opposite, that they have no significant effect on viral spread. The local health department, in denial of this established science, instead offered the school board ridiculously weak and inconclusive stats and studies that purport to show masks work. 4 of you learned people, Nagel, Autry, Reed, and Carlson, naively accepted this simplistic tripe as justification to flex your authoritarian muscle. If the goal of the health department was to give you the best science to make an informed policy choice, why would they not offer you any or all of these 14 randomized control tests and instead give you fatally flawed garbage science that all backs the same political narrative that flies in the face of the real science? No scientific study exists that shows a benefit from a broad policy to wear masks in public situations. To the contrary, OSHA strictly regulates mask wearing in workplaces, imposing rigid protocols precisely because mask wearing for prolonged periods has very real identified dangers associated with such requirements. These well-documented negative effects on health, including reduced oxygen, increased carbon dioxide, adverse skin reactions, and the triggering of latent viruses and/or bacteria otherwise dormant in humans, causing illness. It is blatantly irresponsible policy for this board to impose the mandate in any form on our school children and school employees. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dana Tebow, and I'm a mother to 6 Orioles. 2 of them are currently attending, the rest of them have graduated. And I've been teaching at Ludington Schools for 25 years. And I had prepared some information, and I'm really happy that you decided to have a conversation about your thoughts on the mask mandate before you asked for commentary. I'm a little disappointed in the fact that it was not on the agenda that was published, and that it was added in, that it's an action item after the fact of your agenda modification. I think that that might be part of why you're seeing a lot of frustration from the people here. They don't feel as if they're being heard or being spoken to truthfully or openly up front. And so when we come to speak before you, it's, we're at a disadvantage. And I just wanted to mention that, but that's probably where the frustration is coming from. I initially was going to talk to you about the fact that I've been teaching for 6 weeks without a mask, and that I've seen a great deal of improvement in my students' abilities, in their attentiveness, in the quality of their work. But Sophia Grierson very, very clearly expressed how the mask affects the students and how we need to have them removed. And so I think that at this point, after your representation, that it appears that you will be choosing to allow parents and staff members to apply for their exemptions. I'm very happy to hear that, and I hope that you do follow through on that vote. There's a couple of things regarding the Thune Law Firm argument that they have that explains, I think, that you rested your positions on, that you might want to take into consideration. That case was for resurrection in Lansing, Michigan, and it dealt with the MHHS making the mandate, not school boards, and it approved them to make those mandates, not school boards to do that. It also rested upon the fact that it was a statewide issue. They called it neutral and universal, and that doesn't really apply anymore because there are so many schools that don't require masks, and so that argument doesn't work either. And also their arguments were that the masks were affecting the learning of the students, which I believe is true, but it was not a religious argument that they were making, even though it was a religious school that was making the argument. So I call into question the reasoning that Thune Law Firm bases their position on there, and I think that if you don't allow the mask exemptions for religious reasons, not just non-medical reasons, that still puts you at risk. So I do encourage you to find the way that it appears you will. Thank you very much.
Aaron Taylor. So there's just a couple things that I wanted to address. One of which is there's a lot of talk about how this current plan keeps kids in school. I know at the last meeting that I was at, there was at least 2 families that spoke up and said they had chosen to keep their kids out of the school district because of the current plan. I know myself, my wife Katie, we have 3 children that are in school right now, with masking being a factor in that decision. At the last meeting, there was also discussion about vacancies for job postings. And I know my wife used to be a parapro at the middle school. Again, masking is a factor in being able to keep our kids in the position we want them. That's a factor in all this. I know somebody else spoke and said that if the non-medical exemption was removed, that would play a factor in their role. So I think to say that this keeps kids in school is not true of all kids. I think there are kids not in the district right now because of the current plan that's in place. And I think that if you did something like what Mr. Snyder suggested, which is allowing parents just that freedom to make the choice based on all the reasons that he said, I think you would see more kids. You see a drop in enrollment. You may see some kids come back into school that otherwise aren't there because of this policy. I think also one of the things that bothers me is some of the hypocrisy from some members of the school board. I know I shared some emails with Stephanie Reed. There's a lot of talk about the extra layer of protection that masks provide, yet when she was a substitute in my son's class at Mason County Eastern, he's in an ESD class out there in an elementary school, there were 2 times she substitute taught and chose not to wear a mask. Now that was her choice. That's not a policy out there. But if you're gonna come here and speak about the protection that masks provide and the risk that you put people at if you don't wear a mask, then the people saying that should be wearing masks in all indoor situations if that's what they truly believe, and I just don't see that.
I'll say that, don't you? I don't need a thing to speak to people with.
That's right.
I don't need it. My name is Robert L. Williams, 711 North James Street, Ludington, Michigan. And I am a 1957 graduate from this school. I'm kind of ashamed of the way people talk to the board. No fun there up there. And I see a lot of my friends up there. But I tell you, there's only one person I answer to, and she's gone. And the Lord. What you're doing, you're doing. I spent 6 years in the United States Army. I'm a Vietnam era veteran. And what I believe in, you don't like these things. They don't like them. But they haven't seen them working. My grandfather and them were coal miners. Black lung disease, same thing. When they had the flu in southern Illinois and all over the South. Lost more people in that than we did in COVID-19 so far. We're all talking, man, we can't talk with this on. I can put this on. If I got something to say, I'm gonna say it. It's not easy being up there. Not easy for any of you. It's not easy for these young girls, young boys, wanting to say something. Well, this might save your life. Might. I'm not saying it's gonna. I'm not saying it's not. But you gotta help yourselves too. You understand what I'm saying? You gotta help them. They don't like making these rules. My wife made rules for me, and that was hell. You know? But she was tough. We all laugh and we're all smiling and everything else. And a lot of my friends are here. They don't feel the same way I do.
I believe the comments are supposed to be addressed to the board, according to Robert's Rules of Order.
You're part of the board, aren't you?
Nope.
Well, you are, whether you know it or not. You put them there. Whatever happens, happens. If it gets worse, you'll have to handle it. I see we have our interim superintendent of schools there. And I see the rest of them. Maybe I only got 3 minutes. I think I got 30 seconds left. But please, do what is right. And there's a lot of people here may not agree with it, may agree with it. I had a friend of mine die last week. He didn't believe in a shot. He says, I don't need it. 5 days later, he's dead. I don't want none of my children dead. I don't want none of my grandchildren dead. So, whatever happens, we can all, put it flatly, bitch as much as we want. But, and that's very immature of you answering your own question back there. My dad would have found a place to stop that. I'm old school. But thank you very much, and thank you for being up here.
Thank you, we'll move. Thank you very much. Anybody else like to address the board this evening? Going once, is there anybody else who'd like to address the board this evening? Last call. Public comment period is closed. We will move on to action items. The first action item is
Now they're going to vote. They still have to vote.
The question was about the health liaison position, about whether we need to address a motion on that, and we are way too early in that taking a motion on that. It's going to take an entire process, some consultation with other agencies to figure out if we're doing that correctly, get somebody hired, etc. We'll circle back around that. That's correct. Yep. So we'll move right into the action items. We have, first of all, an action item on the elementary bond project application and certification for payment number 18 in the amount of $1,631,101.30. That's bond payment number 18. Is there a motion? Motion from Brett, support from Mike. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. The next action item is going to be to accept the resolution, authorize the resolution, solicit bids on Foster School property, which I read during the discussion items. Is there a motion? A motion from Leona, support from Stephanie. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We have approval of the low bid on the cleaning service for the new elementary school. That would be awarded to Star Cleaning in the amount of $25,550. Motion to pass. Motion from Brad, support from Josh. Any discussion item on that? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We have the purchase of transit vans. That would be 2 10-passenger vans. Sorry, that bid goes to who, Jesse? Hoekstra? Sorry, Hoekstra. Thank you. Each van is $39,969, so it'd be for $79,938. Got a motion from Scott, support from Mike. Any discussion on that? Questions? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And finally, we're going to address the changes to the COVID mitigation plan. The very first motion that I believe we should consider would be to invalidate the existing non-medical exemption form requiring students and staff to wear a mask at all times or get an approved medical exemption form. We have a motion from Leona, support from Mike. This is to invalidate the existing non-medical exemption form. This would be requiring students and staff to wear a mask or get an approved medical exemption form. This would be completely eliminate the non-medical mask exemption form for both former students and for students going forward. We'll do that on a roll call, please. Okay.
What Brett and I had supported during this session.
This is to invalidate the non-medical mask form.
So it's not what you had advocated.
We're voting on all three of the options separately.
Well, the two no's will effectively pass the third. That's good. Yeah. Everybody clear on that?
Yes.
We'll do a roll call vote, please. No.
Yes.
That motion does not pass. Secondly, we'll be taking up the issue of do we want to allow for a process for students to obtain a non-medical exemption form going forward if signed by a parent or a principal. Any questions on that? We'll do another roll call vote, please. Oh, sorry, yeah, we'll take a motion. Sorry. Who made the motion? I'm sorry. Josh made the motion. Stephanie supported. Okay, any questions on that?
This is essentially what John had suggested.
Yes. We'll do a roll call vote. Yes.
No.
Yes.
That motion passes. So just to be clear going forward, the Ludington Area School District still has a mask mandate. The mask mandate is in effect until the positivity rate in this county drops below 10%. Which there was I've heard some earlier comments about wearing masks forever. That was never our intent. Our intent was always to get through the worst of the pandemic here in terms of positivity rate, and once it dropped, to move out of that. What we're saying in this case now is that the mask mandate still exists. However, in addition to the non-medical mask form, we will accept, in addition to the medical mask exemption, we will also accept